Always a party at Patchworks. Let's get this party started. Woot, woot. Hi, everyone. This is Julie from Patchworks, and I'm so excited that you're joining us for another Must Sew TV night here at Patchworks. And today is April 14th, and while we're technically in Elm Grove, I have to wish all of my fellow Milwaukeeans a happy Milwaukee Day. Yay! So it's Milwaukee Brewers opening day today, so I don't know if the game is over or not. So thanks for tuning in if you're tuning in tonight. I have Frank behind the camera, and we let Tammy have the night off. So I'll be looking at the comments, but I might not be able to answer everything as we're going through, but I promise that I will add along the way so that I'll follow up along the way afterwards to make sure I can answer all of your questions if I miss anything. So today we are going to be talking about our block of the month quilts that we have been working on. And we're also going to be sharing with you how to make your very own triangle paper. Something that maybe you didn't think you could do, something maybe that you remember you learned 20 years ago and you forgot about. And we think that it's just a really great skill to have. Plus, we have some really great new fabrics. So before we get started, I want to share with you this gorgeous quilt behind me. Isn't it amazing? So this is from our Block Bonanza, and I know some of you have been piecing up a storm. You say these 6-inch blocks are addictive and you just can't stop. And a couple of you have finished, and I am so honored to have the quilt that was completed by Mary Seelan behind me. Let me share a picture with you of that so that you can see the whole thing. And you can see, I'm trying to move out of the frame here so that you can see it better. Look at that, isn't that pretty? So this is a really great quilt. It's a 6x7 set. And Mary used some gorgeous Three Sisters fabric that she had been collecting over the years. And I love how she used that taupe gray as the accent line that goes through that alternating square. So, so pretty. So thanks so much, Mary, for sharing that with us. We'll be using a couple of her blocks in our block step out for tonight as well. And I really am excited to see all of the progress that I'm seeing. So if you aren't already a member, I encourage you to jump on to our Facebook group, which is Patchworks Party, and we share show and tell there, and you can see all of the different blocks that people have been creating with their Block Bonanza. So we're going to flip it around today. We're going to talk about Block Bonanza first, and then we'll switch to Toes in the Sand, since Toes in the Sand already got a little nod last week. And we are just going to start with a recap. So Frank, let's take a peek overhead. And these were the first 4 blocks that I assigned last month. And we had that full presentation on it. If you wanted to watch it, that would be, if it's easier to find, on our YouTube channel. So you can see that on Block Bonanza, and that would have been last month. And I am using the Minikin Simpson Americana fabrics here, so you can see that. And we are going to be relying on some other fabric inspiration for looking at this month's blocks. So Tammy, who is normally with us behind the keyboard, she wants to play too. And so she has been playing with her Block Bonanza, and her pattern is the Celestial version. So if you were still looking to get this pattern, please let us know, because we are able to order it for you. And It is $32 for the pattern. She put it in a binder here just like I did with the page protectors. And you can see the original pattern here has a 7 by 7 set, but you can make as many or as few as you want. Tammy is going to be using the Frankie fabrics here, which is super fun. And I'm just going to pull her blocks out so we can see them here. Oh my goodness, is she making 2 of each? Oh my goodness, she is just doing amazing. Maybe 2 of this one, 2 of this one, 1 of this one. So this was her start, and I love this great fabric. We just got in the Fat Quarter Towers. We have the yardage in stock. We have some other pre-cuts, but we just got in those Fat Quarter Towers. So if you like this, or you just love the fabric, you could hop on too. So this is that retro basic gray line that came out, and I just love the dark colors. So these were her first 4. Fun, fun, fun. For week 5, dun, 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 dun. Look at this. Look at this. Look at all these teeny tiny little itty bitty half square triangles. Okay, so remember, this is a 6-inch finished block. So what size does that make these itty bitty little triangles? Any guess? Any guess? 1 inch. Oh my goodness. Can you believe it? It's so fun and so exciting and so awesome. And Tammy was so brave that she went ahead and she made her half square triangles according to the pattern. And so she made every single half square triangle individually, or she made them in pairs. And what we're going to talk about today is how can you take better advantage of making these in a more efficient manner. So you may have seen before, let's see, where did I put it? You have maybe seen before something called triangle paper. It comes from a variety of different manufacturers, and they come in a whole bunch of different sizes. They've been around for forever. And the thing is that it is printed. So this particular one happens to be a bigger one. This is a 1 3/4 finished. But it is a professionally printed piece of paper, okay, that you put on top of fabric, and you sew on the dotted lines because those quick quarter lines have been put on for you, okay? So you sew on the dotted lines, cut, and then it's cut to size. So there's no trimming down, you're stitching to size. The trade-off is that you have paper to remove, okay? The other thing is that you need to always have the right size triangle paper in stock. And sometimes, you know, if you're sewing at home, that can be quite the challenge. So what I thought I would talk about today is how to make your own triangle paper. Dun, dun, dun. How does that sound? Is that exciting? Okay, so first off, if we're going to talk about how to make our very own triangle paper, we are going to talk about a little bit of math. I know, I promised you that there would be no math, but you know what? In quilting, there is math. So let us talk about it. So the first thing you need to do is you need to know, let's go this way so you can see everything. Okay. The first thing you need to know is what is your finished size, okay? Finished size. All right. It's like I'm writing on a blackboard. This is super exciting. Okay, so it is a 1 inch finished. And the fabulous super secret number is when you're talking about how big of the square do you need to start with when you're making your half square triangles. If you're making them in pairs, you need to add 7/8 of an inch which is 0.875. I know that's scary. So we are going to take 1 plus 0.875, which means that we are going to be cutting 1 7/8, or drawing 1 7/8 inch lines. So this grid here is a 1 7/8 inch grid. I think I stumbled through that. So let's talk about a different one, okay? So let's talk about a 2-inch one, okay? So if I need to have a 2-inch finished square, what size grid am I going to draw? I'm going to draw a 2 7/8 inch grid. So without boring you with all of the details, how are we going to draw that grid? Well, when you have the super awesome Patchworks rulers, which have our 7/8 inch dotted lines on there, it makes it super easy. So what we're first going to do is we are going to draw a straight line. And you want to use a mechanical, very fine mechanical pencil. Just going to draw a line. Don't worry, I won't draw the whole thing for you. And then we will line up on our perpendicular, on our square. Draw our next line. I'm going to rotate. I am going to align my 1 7/8, which is this dotted line, okay, and you can see 1 7/8. We're going to line that up on our straight line that we drew, making sure that it's lined up really nice. And when you're drawing your line, you're going to angle this in. Do you see how I'm doing that? So I'm getting super tight to that acrylic. Let's draw another one. One more, just so we can see how the grid is starting, okay? Of course, you can do this by computer. Of course, you can buy the paper. But what I wanted to show you is that you have everything that you need in your sewing room or home office to do this if you are caught in a pinch, or it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you need to finish that project, or you just want to make a few and you don't want to spend money. Okay, so what did I do here? I lined up this perpendicular on this middle line. I lined up this edge line on that dotted 7/8. Okay, do you see what I'm doing? And so you'd continue, so on and so forth, so that you have your big grid. Now that you have your grid, what you're going to do, maybe I should just quick draw a couple more lines so that I can show you how to place your quick quarter ruler so that you can draw your stitching lines. Okay, here we go. So there's 2 different kinds of our quick quarter rulers. I told you that if you can only have one, this is my preference. But when you are making your own triangle paper, it is awesome to have both, okay? So there are instructions on your quick quarter ruler how to do this. Yay, so if you forget, it's right there on your quick quarter ruler packaging. And just as a reminder, it is the long one is value priced at $5.49. So we are going to position this, and you are going to position it so that these intersections are in the gap. And so you're going to want to make sure you look super close to make sure that you are lined up just right. And then what we're going to do is we are going to draw a dashed line. Okay, draw a dashed line. I'm going to keep pressure on, make sure it's still lined up. Yes, it is. And we are going to draw our lines, okay? So you're going to draw here, 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 kind of like every other in a checkerboard, and then come across. You can use regular paper. You can use a paper piecing paper. You can use either the Carol Doak, or actually my favorite is the Perfect Piecing, which is this June Taylor, and it's transparent block. It's like that, like interfacing paper. So it's translucent here and just really, really nice to work with and nice to stitch with. This happens to be 2 sheets there. Okay, so this is my preference, this Perfect Piecing. In a bind, you can absolutely use copy paper, which is what I used today, or you can use whatever. So if you wanted to make one, take some time, and then you can just write what it is. So this is 1 inch finished. You can scan it, you can copy it, and voila, you have your very own triangle paper, okay? When you are stitching it, the really super cool thing is that you get to follow this in continuous lines. So I'm jumping ahead here. Let's talk about how we would stitch it, okay? So first off, you are going to I'm just going to clean off some space here and bring up a cutting mat. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so here we go. Thank you for your patience as we did that swap out there. So what you want to do is you want to take your 2 pieces of fabric, right sides together, and I like to starch my fabric before I get started. And then what I do is I do a rough cut of a piece of fabric. So I probably would use a longer ruler. I just happen to have this really nice short ruler right here. So I'm just going to make a cut, and I'm just going to shimmy that ruler down. And so you have a little bit of extra fabric on all sides. Then what I like to do, because when I'm sewing with paper, I don't like to use pins. So I use my glue stick, my Soline glue stick, and I glue around the edge. All right, I lay that on top. And now I'm ready to go to the sewing machine. So when I'm sewing, I'm going to start in one of these corners, and I am going to just sew a continuous line for as long as I can. So in this particular case, I can sew all the way up and over and down and over. Do you see what I'm doing here? So you just keep sewing. You just keep following these lines around and around and around until it is all stitched. When you're stitching, you want to reduce your stitch length. Okay, so I'm just going to say reduce stitch length. I used a 1.5. You can go a little bit bigger if you wanted to, but what's really important is reducing that stitch length so that it perforates your paper, okay? And then after you've stitched, you are able to take them apart. So let's take them apart. We're going to cut on the solid line. I'm going to just cut a couple of them apart here so that we can look at them. So you can see that it is 1 inch and 7/8. I'm going to make a cut here. cut here. Then I'm going to cut this apart. When you're removing your papers, you want to first fold back the big piece here. Run your fingernail or something else. Then what I like to do, hold on from the center, from that bottom part, and perforate out. The reason why I like to perforate from the center out is that I don't stretch. And then I'm going to flip it around, pop that back seam, and then you can press it. And you can either press it open or press it to one side, and you have a perfect, perfect, perfect half square triangle unit. So this is going to measure 1.5 inches to finish 1 inch, and let's see if we did it. Look at that. It's a perfect 1.5 inches. Yay, and we even did it on live. Yay. So, let me just quick look at the comments here. So Linda, you had asked, should you use a paper piecing paper like the Carol Doak or the June Taylor paper piecing paper? That absolutely would make your life simpler. It would be easier on your needle. I really wanted to show you the versatility that you can sew on copy paper, because sometimes when you're going to be doing something like making do with what you have, you may not have that specialty paper at home. So of course I would love to sell you all the specialty paper to do different things. I just wanted to make sure that you knew you could make your very own, very perfect half square triangle paper in order to make your projects. And I shorten my stitch length when I'm sewing so that when I tear the paper, it is easier. The biggest thing when you are tearing your paper away is that you want to make sure that you are not pulling, that you're not taking your seams out. So that is really, really helpful when you are reducing your stitch length, just like you would in paper piecing if you were doing a foundation paper piecing pattern. The other trick that I had learned is just talking about how you fold the paper back, use your thumbnail or some other hard utensil to be able to run against that stitch line, and then you're pulling from the center. So I think I have one more ready to go here so that we can just look at how we would do it again. So when you're taking your paper off, we are going to take the paper, fold it back, run our nail. I'm going to do it this way. And then we're coming here. Now, if you don't have good nails, or you have a fancy manicure, because you can tell I don't have a fancy manicure. Other things that you can do is you can use a stiletto in order to help, or you can use the back of your seam ripper. Now, if you have the stiletto, you could use it like that, and then to help pull, you can just make sure you don't pull your stitches, okay? But let's see if you can see how tiny those stitches are. Can you see that? Super tiny. I use that Aurifil 50 weight thread so that I don't have the extra bulk. If you'd use a thicker thread, having such a short stitch length like this could create some problems. Now, if you had wanted to, you can always use a larger size triangle paper than what you need, but then you're trimming down. And so for me, if I'm going to be using the triangle paper where I am going to have to take the time to take paper out, I want to make sure that I'm using the correct size. So going back to our math class, for a 1-inch finished size, we are going to be cutting, or we are going to be making a 1 7/8 inch grid. for this particular block, we have 20 half square triangles that are the exact same fabric. So if you made a whole sheet according to how I made it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, so 5 by 20, so this would be 40. So clearly I'm making too many. You can always use part. So if you wanted to only use 2 columns here so that you could get the 20 that you needed, you could do that too. Or you could stitch them all and then just save them for another project. So sometimes when you're making sampler blocks, you don't use the triangle paper because you just simply make too many. But when you need to make this many tiny, tiny, tiny ones for one block, it can be helpful to use half square triangle paper. Any questions on that? Does anyone do that, or have you done it before? I know in my very first quilting class that I took a long, long time ago, we actually drew these lines on the fabric and then sewed on the fabric. I think taking the time to draw these lines on paper first could be better. Number one, in case if you drew it not right, or you drew it crooked, you wouldn't have to worry about making mistakes. The second thing is that, remember, fabric has that bias to it. And so depending on how you're marking it, you could be skewing how you're drawing your lines, which would then impact your finished product. The other thing, if you're doing that, is that depending on the marking utensil that you're using, potentially it wouldn't come out, and that would be super sad, especially if you're making 20 tiny half square triangle units. All right, so with this particular block, you are making those super cute pinwheels, and then you are alternating them with these solid squares. Let me pop in here. I have a picture of Mary's block here to share with you. Look at this one. So this is an up close of it, and you can see how her pinwheels are super cute and super perfect there. So thank you, Mary, for sharing that. The next block that we are going to talk about today is far less challenging, and that is block number 6. It is very challenging as well. See, we just wanted to give you a little bit of a challenge to get you started along the way here. So this particular one is all these tiny little, did I pull the right one? Let me pull overhead here. I'm just showing you all the different blocks. Okay, so we are going to take a peek here at, Frank, let's take a peek. Overhead. So block 6, we have this super fussy block, and I didn't grab the right image to share with you from Mary's quilt. And this particular one has more half square triangles as well, and these are smaller yet, which was the other reason why I wanted to talk about how to make that triangle paper, okay? So for that triangle paper, you are actually going to be making 3/4 inch finished. Okay, so the math on that, and don't worry, I'm actually uploading my charts here so that you could download them if you'd like, if you didn't want to make your own, but I think you should try to make your own. For making 3/4, we are going to take 3/4, which is 0.75, and we're going to add 7/8, which is 0.875. So it is 1 5/8. that is the size of the grid that we are going to make for the 3/4 inch finished. And it looks just like that. Okay? So you could go ahead and use your 1 inch finished and then trim all of your blocks. But if you are going to be taking the time to use your triangle paper, I would go ahead and use that correct size. Now that you got through that hard stuff, you are going to look at block 7. And block 7 here, oops. I need to talk to my cameraman better. I'm not cueing him well today. So this is 4 half square triangles. Now these, because you're just making the 4, we can go ahead and make them in pairs just like we always do. And then you have this rail fence here. So after your 2 tough ones, you'll have 2 easier ones. So you have that one. And then the other one that you have, and this was Mary's. Let's look at that. Really pretty with those shabby chic colors. And then we have a sawtooth star for number 8. And this particular one, Mary took liberty where she changed. Instead of keeping all of these fabrics the same, she decided to have the outside corners be different fabric. And so I encourage you to make the project your own. If you had wanted to, you could even fussy cut that center block for something different as well. So we talked about the ins and outs of 4 precision piecing blocks today, as well as talking about how to go about making your own triangle paper. So the keys would be using your quick quarter ruler. You can use paper piecing paper, or you could use just copy paper as well. Make sure that you have a fine mechanical pencil. You could also use your Soline mechanical pencil. We have it in graphite, so that would be just like a different office supply pencil that you might have at home. And if you don't have that one, well, you can have one from your sewing room. I'm going to hop over to the comments here, make sure there's no other questions, and then we are going to, oh, here we go, one other question. Do you always need to add, okay, do you always add 7/8 of an inch? What if you need a 2.5 inch finished? What do you add? Okay, so thank you so much. If you have a 2 7/8, let's look overhead, Frank. 2 7/8, that is 2.875, so that's 2 7/8. We are going to add, I'm sorry, nope, strike that, strike that, strike that, strike that. 2.5. This is live, folks. 2.5, okay? That's our finished size. So if we were just cutting it, we add an inch, right? But then we have to trim down. So that precision marking is 7/8, and that works for whether you're making something tiny or something giant. So 5, 7, 3, carry the 1, 3 3/8, okay? So you, Cindy, you would use, or Cynthia, you would use a 3 3/8 yard, inch grid, yard. So do you know what? Talking about yards, I went to the deli last week and I got turkey. I must have been tired. And so I asked him for a yard of turkey, and both of the associates behind the table, behind the counter, just started laughing. They're like, "You want a yard of turkey?" And I'm like, "Oh, I guess I want a pound of turkey." And they were just laughing. And so they said, "You must sew." And I said, "Yes." And they're like, "Oh, we sew too." And so we got a little, so anyhow, lots of fun. So I just, yard, inch, pound, all the same thing. Not really. 7/8 of an inch is our magic number. Okay, so now let's talk about toes in the sand. How does that sound? I'm just going to clean up my little workspace here because I always like to make a mess. Frank will attest to that. I'm like the Tasmanian devil sometimes, like, wah. Any flat surface I can get. I love to make optimal use of all flat surfaces in my house, at work, everywhere. All right, so let's talk toes in the sand. Toes in the sand, block number 4. Julie Herman has some really great tips and tricks. She did a video on block 4. You'll want to make sure to check that out if you haven't already. And one of the things that I want to talk about with our block 4 is that we have partial seams, and that's something that we don't talk about a lot, and it's a really great skill builder. So I'm just going to do a little discussion about that. So Frank, let's look overhead. So the 2 blocks that we're going to make, let's see if I can position this here so I can see it. Da, da, da. Can you see it all now? Okay, here, this one, and we make 2 a month, so we'll also make this one, okay? So it's super cool, but you can see here there's this triangle in the middle, and it's a mystery of how did this triangle get in there. Okay, so what we're going to do is, to get it in there, you're going to start your block by attaching the piece partially. So you pre-pieced your first row that is in the pattern, and we're laying on our piece and we're just sewing here, okay? Now for this particular one, we reinforced the seam. If you were just making your own block, I would not reinforce the seam. Heidi just knows I have a heavy hand when we're doing our demonstrations, and she wants to make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. So you're going to do that. You're going to press as normal, okay? For that next round, because we're going to go around the block, for the next round, we're going to attach our piece just as normal, okay? If we went counterclockwise, we would have to do the same thing everywhere, and that would be a lot of trouble. So we are going for the least amount of work, so we're going that way. Our last row coming here, and so then we have these pieces, okay, that we're just going to put together. So we lay it back on top and finish the seam. But we are going to finish the seam from the center going out. You want to finish it from the partial seam to the end, so that if you started here and came in, you might end up with a bubble, and that would be bad. So we start where we stopped stitching and just come out. So partial seams are nothing to be afraid of. You can get some really amazing things when you just sew part of a seam, and that's how you do it. So if you are in Toes in the Sand, we do have block 4 available for pickup if you haven't picked it up already. And we do have copies of the pattern in stock. If you are making the cover size, you are making 2 blocks a month. And if you're making the queen size, you are making, I believe, 3 blocks a month, right? 3? And you might even be able to eke out your extra block from the extra fabric. So, actually 4 blocks. Well, so look at the pattern. That's why we need patterns. So the Hex and More is the ruler to have for this particular one. If you just wanted to try it out, Julie does include all of the templates right in her books. So there is no requirement to buy the rulers. However, you will see how nice and easy it is when you have the full tools to be able to do it. Okay. So now I am going to share with you some of the great fabrics that we've been getting in. So it's really exciting to be getting fabrics. Sometimes we get a whole bunch all at once, and then we go for a while without getting any in. And we've got some fun novelties in, and we haven't gotten in that many novelties lately. And I love this because we have just some really great munchy fabrics. So let me grab them. And I had Tammy prep these by cutting me half yards off the bolt here so I can share it with you a little bit better. So we have from Canvas, which is Ben Artex, some peanuts, perfect for opening day of baseball, right? Then we have some shelled nuts, because you never can have enough peanuts, right? Some chips. I'm not sure if these are quite on our website yet, but we will, if you let us know if you needed any before they're up there. So these are barbecue chips, and these are classic chips because, well, you have to have both. Mixed nuts. Oh, these are my dad's favorites. Got to have the cashews in there. Pecans and almonds. And pretzels. This looks like I can just eat it. I'm seeing the screen and I just want to eat. Oh, thank you, Kayla, for letting us know. The Brewers won. And we have the top of beer cans. And then we have some beer words. On tap, barrel, blending. Some crushed cans. Must have been after a party. In the recycle bin. Going to the beer shop, seeing all the different kinds of beer. Here they're stacked in a row. And then we have beautiful glasses filled with beer. And bottles, because you can't have enough beer. So it looks like here I have an obsession here. But you know, sometimes you need these. Then we have on tap and the beers. I mean, just imagine what fun projects you can make with these. Then we hop over to a fun collection from Northcott. So here we have some smoking hot peppers. Some smoking hot dogs and burgers and kebabs, things that you'd make on the grill there. Some words. I love some words. King of the Grill, tasty steaks, the best in town. Oh, this is a good one too. Can have that grill. We have a really nice grilling section of fabrics. And this nice picnic plaid. We have a apron for this collection as well. If you are looking to make the perfect barbecue apron, it has not only the apron panel part here, but you can make your mitts. Make sure if you make the mitts that you have the proper insulation in them so that no one gets burned. And let's take a peek. Let's look at this full size, Frank. If we look ahead. So this is one of these really nice convenience panels. And that you include the fabric for the ties as well. And then what do these say? Oh my goodness. Oh no. There's some naughtiness here. Okay, barbecue timer. This is really important. It says, let's look overhead, Frank. So it says, Rare, 1 beer. Medium, 2 beers. Well done, 3 beers. Order pizza, 6 beers. Oh no. Oh no. I don't like that timer. Frank's saying, well, that seems about right. So we have this really great collection here. The panel is $17.50, as it is a little bit larger piece here, and you have all of those pieces, which is super great. And you know, you could make coasters out of that timer, or you could use it as pockets. There are also lemons, because you need to have a lemonade on your barbecue. Look at this lemonade. And you know, if you had that griller making your lemonade, well, it might just be spiked with something special. And then they have watermelon and watermelon rind. So, you know, with all of this crazy spring weather, it's really nice to be thinking summer. Yeah, Sherry, I think that Frank did help pick the fabrics. So I think so. Frank, did you order those when I wasn't looking? Frank's laughing. He's given up on ordering fabrics. He lets me order all the fabric. The other fabric line that we got in, which you'll be seeing next week with our Moda University presentation, but I wanted to share with you because it's been it's one of those super popular lines that everybody's been asking about. And so Tulip Tango has arrived. So this is the latest Robin Pickens fabrics. We have the full line. We have a whole bunch of these fat quarter towers, and we have 2 amazing patterns from Robin. We have Tightrope, which is jelly roll or layer cake friendly, as well as the, oops, I have 3 I didn't grab all of them. I have Crisscross Kisses, which is fat eighth, fat quarter friendly. And then I have a tulip pattern, which is super amazing, which is also pre-cut friendly. So be looking for a little bit more information on that in next week's presentation. But if you've been waiting for this line, know that we have it and give us a call, send me a message, and I'd be very happy to set some aside from you. Or if you happen to be in the store, make sure you can come on by to pick some up. So before I let you go today, I think I am wrapping up a little early tonight. Is there any questions that anyone has? Now is your chance. I'm looking at the questions. Uh-oh, I'm opening myself up for bad things because you never know. I won't be able to not answer a question if it comes on. All right. So we are open all day tomorrow, regular hours on Friday and Saturday, and closed Sunday and Monday as usual, reopening on Tuesday. Our next week's presentation is going to be our Moda University, and we have some really amazing things planned for you for that presentation. As I said, we've been getting in a bunch of different fabrics, so always stop in to see what great fabrics we have for you. I'd like to thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Happy quilting, and we'll see you soon.